Hi, this is Dave DeVries, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collector Podcast. Aren't you lucky?
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me, as always, is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards, Norrin.
Yes.
Welcome to the Make Your Own Grading Company acronym generator game.
So, Norrin, what is the first initial of your first pet?
S.
S for sugar.
S for silver.
Okay, that's good. What's the first initial of the surname of your first lover?
Wow, we never got to know each other that well. No. Let's say R.
Let's say R. R. Oh, my goodness me. Norrin, what's the first initial of the word goat?
If it's still the same, it's G, son.
You answered SRG.
That's good. SRG.
Congratulations. You just played the Make Your Own Grading Company acronym generator game.
Done.
Oh, we like it.
Now start the bloody episode and remember to endure collecting.
It's enjoy. It's enjoy.
Enjoy collecting.
I can't be doing with these people. How you doing?
AI is just not there yet. How long were you on that website playing with that?
I've had so much fun with that website. I've had it say nice things to me because I've needed nice things. Oh,
that's nice.
Yes,
that's good.
So
like
yes,
comfort AI. I love it.
Yeah. So excuse the slightly cheeky intro. I just thought SRG. Let's make up another grading company.
Let's just get another one out there.
As if the world needs any more. Anyway, I'm being cheeky. I know I am. It's not aimed at anyone. Calm your tits, everybody. Calm your tits. Doesn't matter if you get graded with a mattress on top of it. Just calm your tits. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. You know
My
what?
defense, I did not know this was happening today. It is hilarious, though.
It is hilarious. And you know what? We've got cause to celebrate today because today, as we record, so it's going to be weeks later, and if he listens, and if he does listen, he's going to be thinking, oh, well, I've got it for next year. But it's Dave DeVries' birthday today.
Hey, Dave.
So which is why you heard him at the top of this episode. I thought, what better way to celebrate, even though this episode isn't out till a week after his birthday. But anyway, Dave, it's always our birthday because your work is with us. And,
always, buddy.
You've blessed us with both your presence on this podcast, your intro at the top of this episode, and the awesome giddy heights of your work on Marvel Masterpieces 95. Flair Ultra Spider-Man, I think he was on that, and he was certainly on Flair 2019. I think he's been on a few others, but I can never remember what sets he's on. It's like you throw a rock.
They're always good. They're always so good.
So Dave is a very useful 32 years old today. So I'm sure he'll thank me for saying that.
He's 32?
He's 32. He was.
I thought he was 23.
No. That would have made him embryonic when he did Masterpieces 95. At least when he's 32.
Hey, genius is genius. Genius is genius, sir. Okay.
Actually, let me just do some sums in my head. Right, it's 2022. I know how old he is because I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't know if I don't know his public knowledge. So hang on, let me just. Goodness me, he was really young when he did Masterpieces.
He was really young.
He was really young. They all were probably. So anyway, I remember when I was that age, I certainly wasn't getting work like that done.
I didn't see the light of day. I was mostly just in my room.
Emo.
What? Yes.
Emo rap.
I was very emo. I had like eyeshadow, hair in front of my eyes,
emo rat,
moping around, going to graveyards, midday. I was hardcore like that. I didn't wait until nighttime.
So pretty much like Tobey Maguire's character in Spider-Man 3, yeah?
Exactly, you get it.
Yeah, good. So today is and I should have got the speech generator to do this, but quite frankly, I've had enough of her since she got Enjoy Collecting wrong. Today is the 2022, the MCC Pod Hobby Questions Metal Universe Annual Masterpieces.
I think it's going to catch on.
Yeah. Well, listen, we need set names to become longer and longer. So, yeah, if you're listening to me up a deck, you can make them a little bit longer. Yeah, you could make them a little bit longer, some of these set names. I'm in a feisty mood today because we are true collectors here on the MCC Pod. Don't even get I'm in a really feisty mood today.
You are in a feisty mood. That's three things.
I am, literally. I am, and I'll bleep this. I'm no given Taylor because I'm fed up with being nice to people who are just arsey and rude and self-entitled. I've kind of had enough of it this week. I'm over it. So yeah. It's been a crazy week, man. Yeah, people have been arguing loads. People have been posting really defensive stroke offensive.
I was called a lot of really great names. I don't know if that. Yeah. So that was exciting.
And it's just like, grow up.
I don't know. It's very funny. I kind of forgot about it.
Sorry.
So much is going. No, don't apologize. So much is going on in the hobby, like exciting things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's things happening at card shows now. Mm-hmm. People are talking about Marvel in an exciting way. I'm excited for the future, to be honest. I think it's going to be great. I think there's a lot of fun things coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I am as well. And, someone put it very nicely to me in a message today and said, listen, sports went through this, it's growing pains. And I'd like to think that's the case.
I think so too.
Which is absolutely great. It's just,
there's a lot of cool people in the hobby. I was talking to cool people
in the hobby. Just need more of them to get along with each other.
Yeah. I was talking to our resident Namor collector.
He's got a question in.
He does?
He has a question in. So we'll start with his.
Very nice. Please. Yeah.
Anyway, you were talking to
Sorry, no. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Quick story. I was talking to the resident Namor collector, and so crazy to see him like getting cards and building up the character collection. And it's so fun to see that because like, you and I have been doing this stuff for a long time, and to see someone's like, oh, this is genius, like absolutely truly love it. And like making their list and all that stuff. I mean, like that's the stuff I was always excited to see grow in popularity. Like I'm excited to see what new characters are like claimed and collected and people are like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And you know what I mean? To see people get those master collections. I don't know. Future's looking good.
I think it is as well. And I think you touched on something there actually, which kind of feeds into one of the questions that we've got going. So we'll pop a pin in that. Do me your pop a pin noise because you're good at that. There we go. Lovely stuff. So let me find the question from Namorita. He probably won't thank me for calling him that, but I'm still going to find the question. Sorry.
Miles.
Sorry, Miles. Sorry. You can't take me anywhere. It's not true, actually. You can take me to a nice steak restaurant.
I plan on it.
I've just got to find the question. Sorry. I posted this on MMC. I posted this on MCCW, and then I reposted it on MCCW. So I've got 3 different posts to look at. And of course, since I last opened this, all 3 of my browser windows are completely refreshed. Let me just find this question. Miles. I have a question. Good, because it is hobby questions. Why don't they show, besides sketch card artists, the character they did? So when looking at a database, we kind of know if our faves are in a set or not. I've been having a heck of a time trying to catalogue what set art is in or not. Well, welcome to the one of the most challenging things. They don't do it because, well, they've actually told us before on an episode when we had Daniel Machado from
that's right
site. It's basically a lot of the time it's just impossible for them to do with a volume of sketches. They don't know what will and won't be approved necessarily at the time. They might be needing to load them onto the system, and they also might not necessarily get it right. How many times do we have people post in group like, what character is this sketch?
It's pretty bad. And I think that's, I don't know, that for me is a huge problem in the hobby. Like, you know, for some reason, and we also are having characters mislabeled when they print them on cards.
Oh, on regular cards, not
on
sketches.
Regular cards, not in sketches. They really need to have someone who oversees. Like, I know the design department is probably shared amongst like different things, but I would think it would be really smart to have someone in there with the vast knowledge of Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And just like, and also have a library of what art has already been used for certain cards. Like, I was talking to a sports collector and I can't remember their name now. So I'm sorry, my friend. I don't know why I've blanked on it right now, but they were telling me, it was like, you think Marvel's bad with repeated images. You have no idea how bad it is in sports, which makes a lot of sense. But I think the issue there is that Marvel is about the art. You know what I mean? Sports is very much about the design of the card. You know what I mean? And arguably you could say the picture too, but I think people look at stats, they look at design. I think there are some things that kind of play maybe like more evenly with sports cards than just the image, but I really do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Evenly is what I mean.
It's more of a trinity of things with the sports cards. You know, you've got the image of you've got the image of the character. I was going to say, of course, they're not characters. Well, I guess some of them are characters. That Tom Brady, he's a character. I don't know if anyone's ever said that about Tom Brady. Anyway, but
you heard her first.
But then you've got the stats on the back. And then you've got the kind of design of the card, you know, and they all
hold the foiling,
those three pillars are quite,
there seems to be quite a bit of things that are on that top shelf of things that you're looking at when you're getting a sports card.
Yeah.
But Marvel cards, man, like comic cards are just needed to have, you know, it's the art, it's the character, it's the depiction of the character, it's the costume. So much is about the picture there and the artwork itself. So I don't know. I think there definitely should be some kind of design check or a design head where they can actually like double check everything, think about it, and have a library of cards that they've done in the past.
You
know, just so they understand what they're referencing.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many sketches on EPAC and on ComC, and how many times have both you and I just gone through them, like clicking on the artist, opening it up, looking, seeing if our character's there. Nope, right, next artist, and you just work through it.
Yeah,
you just work through it.
And you know what? There is
Miles. You know, that's not going to go away anytime soon.
And you know, the other thing to think about for everybody out there, it's actually really good that they don't name it right away, because I found some really great hidden gems just because people didn't take the time. For certain cards and characters, and it sucks. It would be easier to search because I would just gobble everything up. But and on the other hand, things kind of stay hidden for a little bit longer if you're the more persistent collector.
It works the other way around. I've lost count of the number of eBay searches that have been triggered by someone labeling a sketch of Black Cat. Shadow Cat often gets mislabeled. Who else? Spider Woman. And there's one other that gets mislabeled quite regularly. But Black Widow, her older costume. I often get people who don't know Marvel that well go Black Cat with it.
I only have to worry about Iceman. So
there is that. At least you don't have to worry about Cloud. I'm going to talk about that
Cloud.
No, I wanted lonely as a cloud.
That was a risque looking card in Ages, right? Cloud.
I don't even want to go there. It's possibly my worst card of the year award for last year. The photo close-up card of Cloud.
Cloud is a woman though, right?
I've no idea. I don't care. It's a photo close-up card of a rather poorly chosen piece of art from the stock image library.
That's true.
Forget about it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just under Miles. Not literally, of course, that'd be filthy. David Bryson asks,
we've seen worse.
Frequently, why are there sets that have numbered card out of, say, 75? Okay, we'll say 75, and they're not more sought after and are still easy to pick up. There are some great sets and cards like Marvel 75th Anniversary that can still be bought for a reasonable price. I feel unless it says PMG on it, people don't really care if it's number unless it's a one of one. Do people not like that only card number X of X amount of people can complete a set and don't try to collect numbered cards. Well, I'm gonna give you my cynical response first of all.
Get cynical.
My cynical response first of all is because people haven't started shouting about them loud enough on the influencer channels.
Damn, you are feisty today. You're steaming, man. I see a little steam coming off.
Anyway, but I will say on that one, I'm not sure they are quite so easy to pick up. I certainly haven't seen. There's a Black Cat Marvel 75th one that's numbered that I've had for a number. I picked it up card. Relatively. Yeah,
I love 75th gold borders. Gold borders. Those are amazing cards. I love those cards a lot.
I haven't seen one pop up for a long time.
They all got picked up.
Yeah,
they all got picked up.
So that's the thing. I think you can still pick up some stuff from those sets, but I think actually completing a set is pretty difficult now because there's enough character collectors out there.
And the Marvel 75th gold border set too happens across 3 different sets. That insert, isn't that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Divas 75th.
Dangerous Divas 2. I think it's Women of Marvel 2.
You would know better. Yeah.
I think I want to say. And then of course the Marvel 75th anniversary set came out with I don't
gorgeous,
think that had numbered anyway.
They're gorgeous. I mean, they're beautiful. And comic cuts are numbered too. And even the comic cuts that are not numbered, they have tier of rarity. So if you look up the website and look up the checklist, you can see how many actually exist of them each, even though the hard number is not on the back.
Yeah.
But, the other part of this too is like Ian said, there is exposure and there's hype trains and all that other stuff. But I think the real issue is because right now what's happening in the hobby is that people are speculating from a mindset of, okay, this makes sense in my world, sports world, so it has to make sense here. Because this is very much the wild, wild west for a lot of people. And people are looking at the Marvel world and saying, okay, I have no idea where to start, but I have to feel comfortable if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's fair. I honestly,
start with what they know.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm not mad at that at all. I think it's great. Rising tide rises all boats type of thing. I've been hearing that phrase a lot around the hobby. I think what's good for people who are looking at Marvel cards and they're like, yes, PMGs are nice. I like them, but I'm looking at other cards and I'm thinking, I love this stuff. I think the right move for you is to do kind of what like a lot of other really smart people are doing around the hobby. Some people even on Instagram are giving exposure to different kind of like sets and things because they know people are getting priced out, So I think the best thing for you to do is to kind of, the truth is this is the rule, right? To make you feel more comfortable. If that's really what the question is, because that's what would be my question, right? It's like, I personally, and I don't think Ian disagrees, but I personally I would love to buy everything I've ever liked. I really would, because I love all Marvel.
I tried doing that.
It tried.
Doesn't work unless you earn a lot more than I do.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me is that I found out very quickly that just because I got something I liked, it basically extinguished my hobby fund. And when that happened, then something I really wanted / needed for my collector mind, I couldn't afford. And that was my biggest worry. So it does suck. And I do get caught up in new sets always. And then inevitably new sets come out, cards get shaken out of trees. And then suddenly something I thought I'd never see pops up on eBay.
Who's
and I have
cards
to make
in trees?
These bastards. But, so that's the trick too. I think if you are going to go for something, the best way to do it, anything hard numbered, you're not going to lose, in my opinion, and everything can go to crap and I'm still going to be collecting. I'm not going to care. So understand it from coming from that bias. You know what I mean? If everything crashed and no one wanted Marvel cards again, I will pick up every Silver Surfer card I'll ever find, regardless, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
That's just my perspective, but anything hard numbered. And the other thing too, is like, if you are a set collector and you want to do like a hard numbered set, be sure to pick up the biggest characters first. If you can't find certain characters like Spider-Man, Venom, Wolverine, all the biggies, if you can't find them at all and you want to chase this set, be aware that once you do find them, you will have to kind of like overpay to grab because it'll be in a PC collection.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that because that can get kind of, aggravating.
The other thing is that a lot of the people who are relatively new to the hobby, I think a lot of people are still in discovery mode.
Yes, I think we'll be in discovery mode until summer.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff, and probably longer because there's a lot of card sets. There's a lot of water under the bridge. So I'm, there's a set that I only discovered last year. That's, I wouldn't say it's anything special. Certainly not shiny. It's definitely not numbered, but they're really cool. So I'm going to be picking them up. But the interesting thing is, so we've started to see, what have we started to see gain traction recently? The numbered X Century and acetate cards from Fleer Ultra Spider-Man are starting to get more.
Yeah, ambers and royal foils are really big.
That's it. They're starting to go, which is
and those crazy. Always went. Yeah, those always went a little too low because of just the number system, and they've always been smart cards to have.
But they're numbered out. Some of them are numbered out 175. So they're not exactly
the amber
slim.
Amber goes 175. I think it goes to 99. No.
We talking
four
about
or three?
The amber.
The last one's 5.
Yeah, and I need one of those. It is.
No, really?
Yeah, I can't go there. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it because there's something PC. There's something big PC that's come up that I think you know about, but I'll talk to you about it afterwards if not. That I need funds for. So
yes.
I can't afford to chase the thing that I want. However, so you've got a couple of things. So in Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, sorry, not to go off on too tangent. You've got the X Century, which are the base are unnumbered, and then the purple and the red and the purple have numbering that together adds up to. What is it? There is a methodology of this.
Yeah. So JD, I did a video on Sketch Card Hive.
Here we go. That's right.
JD and I spoke about it. It's something where like you add the number of cards that are in there and you minus 1 or something like that.
So one of the characters only has 1. I think it's Spider-Man. So there's only one Spider-Man purple X Century. So I'm going to give a shout out now to Eugene Hugh, who hooked me up with card 2 of 12, only 12 Black Cat purple X Century. So I've done those, but no, the ones we were talking about, the preserved amber, they're called. So you've got the base ones, which are numbered to 175, and then you've got a cityscape, which I think is 15. Then you've got the full color, which is 5.
That's it.
So I managed to get the cityscape last year. So I've got.
Oh wow! Congrats.
Yeah, I still haven't. There's loads of stuff on my PC ePack account that I need to get shipped out at some stage. But the problem is every time I think, I'll have some funds to do it, something else comes up, which is always the way and will always be thus. So, but I will get it in hand anyway. Hopefully. That answers your question, David. Now, someone else asked a question that's relevant to something you just said, and I actually said in reply to Heath Stevens that I think it's probably its own episode. But I'm going to tell you the question anyway. But I think there's a whole episode in this because I want to have a think about it and maybe have a little chat with some members of the hobby and just see what they do about it. Mm-hmm. Hi, Ian Taylor. Hi, Heath Stevens. How formal. I'd love to hear you guys talk about building up a card fund, maybe how others have done it. I'd imagine not everyone in the group came into the hobby with a huge bankroll, but the number of people spending thousands seems numerous. How can the little guy get in on the action?
Oh, that's an episode.
That's an episode in itself. Man. So
that's the episode, card fund.
We're going to put a pin in that. Next. We're going to put a pin in that. Heath, there's a pin coming. Boop. There we go. It's a different pin noise.
I'm going to do a different pin. I have an assortment of pins here.
Have you got an assortment of pins? Okay.
I do. Different ones.
Good. Yeah. All right. You
That's one pin, but we'll use that later.
I used to go to school with a guy called John Pin, and we used to call him Pinny. He hated it. Anyway.
I wonder why.
Anyway, let me right. Alistair Wilson. Al Wilson. Who's from Scotland.
I think hey.
L. That's probably a terrible.
Awful.
Honest question. Does anyone have a parent or spouse who has never said, "Why do you waste your money on little pieces of card?" Asking for a friend.
Aw. Yeah, we've all heard that. I've heard that from friends. I've heard that from a lot of people. Yeah, I've heard that. I think you have to hear that when you collect anything. And I think that's true, though, for any collector, right? Any collector who... It's very strange, but and I didn't know this until... God, I've been collecting surfer cards since I was a little kid, from the ones I liked and stuff, and then got really serious like 2014, 2015. And then it got, serious, right around that time. It's very strange, but when you get into a hobby, what people don't realize what the hobby is that it's not just the thing you collect, it's the community around the thing you collect. And I don't think a lot of people realize. I know I've never experienced that before. And now that I have it, you understand, you see it. You're like, wow, okay, these are my people. You know what I mean? It's a singular commonality. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
And to be absolutely fair, Al, my wife is remarkably patient and understanding about it. Frank conversations about being vastly in debt notwithstanding. Anyway, let's move on.
Small story. My wife actually, she created a rival collection called Sketch Card Palooza when I made Sketch Card Hive. And she teases about me constantly that, Sketch Card Palooza. So I'll be like, oh man, check out this card. It's amazing. Only so many made. It's awesome. She goes, I have 2 of those.
So she actively trolls you.
Actively trolls me. Goes out of her way to troll me. Like you'll see her comments on my page.
Love
it's
it.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I have actually. It is absolutely hilarious. She also cooks remarkable stuff. I've seen her in store. You are very, very well fed.
Very, very, very lucky. No, and it's funny stuff. It's not mean trolling. It's very funny.
It's fine. What is the Tommy Henderson asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? To which Daily Mourner Jay has quite rightly asked for clarification: African or European?
Not many people know this, but a lot of card collectors do have a sub hobby, and it's bird watching. So we're all very.
They're all twitchers. Twitches. So Tommy's serious question. How cool would it be for UD to overprint a series of cards and drop box prices to under 150 for a 240 card box, 24 packs with 10 cards per pack? Think it would be great to get kids more into the hobby. The set could also have maybe 120 base cards with 5 to 6 chase cards. And Jalen has followed up. Like an introductory set series, maybe mass distributed through big box stores might work too. Now, I think this is great. I think Upper Deck should do this. I've heard Upper Deck go on to shows and talk a lot about their introductory stuff via Tim Hortons for hockey, which I think is absolutely great. It's wonderful. But I think you really do need to do something like that for Marvel cards.
I think Marvel cards are, I think it's vital for people to feel the effects of opening up a card of Marvel superheroes. Yeah, and what's funny is that what kind of started that right now in a real sense is I'm going to say this wrong. It's the Marvel TCG box from Japan.
Oh, the Weiss
Schwartz one, I think. Yeah. Weiss and Schwartz. Like they've done cards for a long time and they've always been high quality. JD was telling me about this. And I had seen them, but I had never really understood, what they were. I just thought they were really pretty. But people are opening those Marvel boxes and they're like 100 or 150 each, I think, or something like that. And those cards are, gorgeous. I'd love to get a box myself, but I'm spent this month. But they're beautiful cards and they're cheaper, and I think a lot of people enjoy them, and they have different tiers of rarity, pretty significant tiers of rarity actually. So I don't know. I think it's something to
people are just digging them just to dig them.
I like them. I think they look cool. I think they look awesome.
I think the other good thing about that is, of course, you haven't got distributors trying to pump them out at 100 one week, 150 next week, 175 the next week.
I think that's the real problem with the hobby. That we have Dave and Adams and all these people basically, and I'm calling them out by name, who are basically like, just going to go ahead and price gouge as much as they can. They're going to say they sell out when they don't. Come back up and hike the price up, sell out, which they don't, and hike the price up again. The real trick there is to, hopefully we get a better heads up in the future in the group or maybe even the group, like Ian and I can figure something out where we can sell boxes through the group or something at the prices where they come out and try to help people out. I'm just saying, just putting that idea out there. I think that would be really special. And I think it'd be good because all of us are actual Marvel card collectors and, or figure out something of that nature. Sci-fi Cards is really great for that. Ed. Yeah, Ed Webb. Super lovely. Ed Webb is awesome. It's up for coming on, by the way. We just need to sort it out. Yeah. We just perfect. Need to sort it out. And there was a queue actually of people before Christmas and I was going to say something deeply unpleasant then, so I'm going to stop myself because usually there's no break between my brain and my mouth. But yeah, so we need to catch up on that queue of people. So something will come out. Hopefully we can figure this out. And there are people actively working on figuring out a way to get around this issue. And I think it's going to be either through getting an update on when things pop up. So everyone who's, can get what they need at a fair price. Fair in the sense that, you just need to cut out all the middlemen. It's just I don't understand what all this. Basically, what it is, there's 3 or 4 tiers of company it goes to before it gets to the collector. You want to go direct to consumer, direct to collector as much as you can. And I don't think EPAC is the sole answer on that. EPAC is great, and I get that you probably want to build that, but you really can't be stopping the physical network. There has to be some kind of small amount that could be reserved for. But those distributors are important for the other areas of the hobby. They hold a lot more power in the sports side of things. But that dynamic is changing with the whole Fanatics thing. Oh yeah, I think that's going to massively change. So, and a lot of those distributors are going to find themselves out soon. And they should. I mean, they're gonna have a huge problem in the future, and as they should, because I think collectors are tired of being taken advantage of. Because they want to participate in I'll say this now. I don't know if anyone who works for any of those distributors, who are the people that actually are kind of, or any of the people who are doing the price gouging, I think it is, that's out in the market. If any of you guys want to come on here and talk about it, please. And I'm not going to say defend your business practices. I would say is explain to us why you choose to do it. It could be something we don't know. And I'm Ian and I have always been okay with admitting when we're wrong, and we'll happy to do it again. But there has to be the optics of it. Let's say whether it's on purpose, evil intent, or whatever it is, or just money, or maybe it's something that has to do with the licenses or whatever the case may be. Optically, it looks really, really bad. Really bad. Yeah, it's the worst PR. It's really bad. The best thing, right? Here's the thing, and I really want Comsey to come on and talk to us. And I've extended the olive branch, and they kind of haven't really responded. But I've started getting they're just they're not the emails directly from them, but they are emails from Comsey. They're kind of ones that are supposed to make you be they're brand building ones. And so I've started getting emails from Comsey that tell you all the stuff about them. And they, one of them came from someone at Comsey, and it was actually signed it wasn't actually signed, it didn't come from that person, but it was from the president of Comsey or from whoever it is. And I was like, you know what? Here we go. Dear Comsey customers, Julia Getch, Comsey president and co-founder. Well, Julia, come on and talk to us, because a year ago, I and many, many others were throwing a lot of shade at you guys for the poor speed at which you were getting things sorted out. Now, a year later, I will quite happily
say that the majority of people are actually seeing vast improvement and fast turnaround time. So whatever that hump was, you got over it. So, I am more than up for talking to people like that about, okay, and they've turned that around by just doing better.
Which is so greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And, I know they've done a lot of work recently to try to help collectors and to right wrongs and to get shipping products out, shipping people's cards out there. And I think they're doing a great job, man. I'm really impressed by, and I know a lot of other people are too. So I think it's a great and positive thing. And I know all of us are happy to use their services, especially now with the changes that they've made.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, right now, who else is it? Tony Perner. Tony.
I gotta send him a picture or something. Forgot.
I was going to say Tiny Penis. That's an inside joke because Tony sent something to us that was I'm not sure.
Oh my God. Now you have to erase all of this in the edit. You know that, right?
I probably will do. Anyway,
you will.
Tony Perner asks, quality control, do we need more of it? Yes. For all the reasons
of course we do. 100%.
All the reasons we've said. So both in terms of the Marvel Guardian, who actually catches things earlier than when they're printed and says, no, that's not Nick Fury on there. That's the Punisher. Hello, looking at you, Marvel Master.
Well, we just had a null post. Someone wants to collect Null. And did you see that? There were 3 cards on there and 2 of them weren't even of Null.
I didn't understand it. It was none of them.
Oh, sorry. So like the character, the character he wants to collect, it's like Agent Venom on the PMG in 2013. It's not actual Venom.
I think you missed that. I think you missed my role.
Oh, what'd you say? Sorry.
I said it's null and void.
So for me, it's 9:00 in the morning. I don't know if anybody else knows that.
Quality control. Do we need more of it? Yes, we do. However, I do very, very much appreciate that there have been production challenges that have impacted a number of sets, notably annual 2019-20 with the crazy Comic Images style. I think that's a Comic Images throwback retro set, that one actually. They just didn't tell anyone because of the crazy off-centering issues and the chipping on the edge of the Comic Creator cards, which I'm having seen some box breaks of Marvel Annual 2021. All of these issues have been nicely fixed. Thank you very much.
Oh, lovely.
So I'd like to think that was just a COVID-induced blip on the road, but we know that because cards have been produced at distance without, spot checks being able to be done and sample prints and things like that. Because
there was some horrendous things happening in the world that stopped a lot of production factories from doing certain things.
So, like Unbound, the edge has been a bit shaky.
Yeah, it's really bad.
What else? Metal X-Men Metal Universe. And numerous QC issues with that. So yes, it does need to be more, and I would actually go as far as to say that. Okay, I'm going to go back to. Have you seen the movie Elf?
Of course.
Okay, so in Elf, James Caan's character lets a book go to print, even though it's got a missing page.
Yes.
Right. Rather than take the hit and reprint the book.
That's right.
I'm going to go as far as to say as if you've got a product coming out and you can see that it's been printed badly, you need to have the Billy Big Balls to commercially say, we need to actually take the hit on that. We're going to reprint.
Especially at certain levels. I think what was really
and I know it cost you money.
I think what was really detrimental to the hobby, funny enough, and I think things would have gone a little differently, and it might have been in hindsight better that it didn't happen, but the quality of PMGs and X-Men Metal, the color and the printing of them not being at the same level as the ones in the past. At least with Fleer Ultra Spider-Man and X-Men, the cards were thicker. the PMGs had more of a likeness to the old PMGs, even though they themselves were not a direct echo of that insert name. I do think those things matter. And I do think they make people nervous, collectors who want to spend a lot of money on things, which is what you want. You want collectors to be like, you know what? They're bringing back this thing I've always wanted. I'm willing to drop this money. Let's do this. And that's kind of the contract agreement, is like, hey, I'm trusting you to do this. I'm paying for this possibility. And then when it didn't happen, I think that was, again, the fault of that was, I think, more pandemic COVID-ness, especially after talking to them, you know what I mean? And realizing that stuff. I think what I'm saying comes from a perfect world scenario, not from a real world scenario. But I do also think that future stuff and all this other things, and I think they are making real changes to getting to a level where they can be so close to the printers and have quality check and have eyes on everything. That I think those things will hopefully change. But yeah, for a while there was some pretty bad cuts on cards, inserts not looking the way they should be, cards coming out damaged on the packs almost immediately. Some pretty rough stuff there. And you know, if you have cards on ePack, if you know you're going to have a certain supply chain on ePack, then I would assume those cards don't have to be shipped anywhere. And the quality control on those cards can be really, you know what I mean? Like, I'm imagining that would be something happening there. But, you know, I bought cards off ePack and got them home, and they look like they were put through the mill. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, something to be said, though. And I'm sure it's already been fixed, so it might be a moot point, but it is something.
It's one of those things. It might be fixed, but it might not actually feed down the chain to the point where people are getting them just yet. Do you see what I mean?
Exactly.
So we're still seeing the results of new product coming out, that it was an issue 9, 12, 15 months previously. It takes that long to,
because they do these sets, so people know. And I think this is good for people to know, and hopefully is not information I shouldn't be saying, but people need to know that set design and sets are released years prior to when they're made. So, you know what I mean? It's not like they're like, you know what? Everyone wants Marvel masterpieces. We're going to do this in 6 months and get everybody's expectations exactly how they want them today. No, you're looking at like multiple year process on cards. Like, you know, so
no, it takes, I think it's 18 months to 2 years.
Something crazy like that. That's a long time, because this hobby moves pretty fast. What's the quote from Ferris Bueller? Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around once in a while, you might miss it. I love it. Perfect.
I believe I just channeled Ferris.
That was good.
That was good, wasn't it? That was good. Ferris. Save Ferris. I'm going to put some Ferris after the credits, because I love Ferris. Let's put some Ferris after the credits. Wowzers. Right. Now, Dave Marley has waited a long time to have this question answered, because I've just read one of the other questions, which has made me chuckle. We'll come back to that. Dave Marley asked me this question on Instagram a while ago, but it was just after we'd recorded the last Q&A episode, Hobby Questions one. So I said, I'll come back to it. And then I couldn't remember who'd sent it, so I couldn't find it. So fortunately, he reposted it on Facebook for me. So Dave Marley writes, were Marvel cards more attractive to comic book readers and collectors in the pre-internet age because cards could offer an extended look at certain characters or events that wasn't otherwise available or depicted in the comics? Now, with Marvel Unlimited and various fan sites, I should know what Marvel Unlimited is. Is that their online thing? Where you can
digital online,
yeah. Okay. A comic book reader can easily explore a character or story detail that the readers couldn't in the 90s. I start thinking about this while I was flicking through my Fleer Ultra X-Men 96 Wolverine cards. I'm about to sell the few I've got of those. In the 95 Age of Apocalypse crossover, we never got the scene of Cyclops and Weapon X's fight. So this card was a unique glimpse into an event that had only been alluded to in the comics. Thanks as always, guys. And he's actually sent a picture of the card, which is Weapon X versus Cyclops. And it's bonkers. I think that's a really good question. Let me think.
Awesome question.
Well, Marvel cards more attractive? Yeah, I think so. And I think the other thing about it is, what you got to remember is that before Marvel went kind of pop in the mid 90s, they were firing on so many different avenues that there were creators they couldn't get enough creators, so they were what they couldn't fit in the comics would quite happily spill over into the cards. They were commissioning work left, right, and center. By all understand.
I also think that a big part of what you said, Dave, could be the future of Marvel cards too. You know what I mean? Why aren't we seeing content in cards that would be exclusive to trading cards rather than comics? Right? I think that's a great idea.
Do you mean aspects of the story? So to continue this story, you need to look at this trading card set.
Yeah. So like what Dave said. So like this set that was called the Kree Skull.
Kree Skrull War. Yeah.
That's it. So that set, and if I'm not mistaken, had a comic book on the back of them. So when you put them in the 9-page, you could read a comic book.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that would fly today, but I think what's interesting about that idea from that set and possibilities for the future of Marvel cards, and hopefully I'm sure Upper Deck is listening kindly. I think a part of this is that the way to make Marvel cards benefit different types of collectors is key here. And I think a part of that could be, aspects of stories we never saw, right? Characters we only heard about through backstory. I think there's a lot of cool things that can be done with cards where we can get information or be privy to information that we never would have been able to see in the comic books. Like, for instance, Marvel versus DC or Marvel versus Windstorm. That was pretty cool. You got to see a little bit of that in comics, but I remember reading the Marvel versus DC and like looking for Surfer in the background. It's like, all right, when are we going to have like Surfer fighting Green Lantern? You know what I mean? And I would try to look in the panels.
Yeah.
Because it was also like a Superman and Silver Surfer comic book, which was really cool. And a little crossover moment. And getting those in cards and positioning them next to each other. And Julie Bell did amazing things on there, and as well as other artists. Seeing that kind of avenue being taken place again is really cool. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Just by your comment, Dave, that we can kind of reinsert the idea of Easter eggs or origin stories or side stories in cards. I think that's a really cool thing. Or we can get costume review. Like, how cool would it be to get a costume reveal in a Marvel annual set?
Yes. So
wouldn't that be cool?
Have the rookie moment be in the card set rather than that's the comic book idea. Yeah.
That's really fun. And that gives it like a longevity too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also raises the profile of the cards in the comic world. Because I don't think there's as much crossover now. Certainly not. I think a lot of the comics are still very accessible to children. To some degree, largely by the fact that Marvel themselves do a lot of digital content, and obviously Topps do as well. So that ties into the previous question. We've talked about this before. The entry level for a lot of youngsters now is digital because it's not being provided physically. Yeah. If you want kids to carry on having the fill of opening packs, then it's either going to come from the sports side who do cater to that, or they're not. Or they're just not going to be into it. And in which case, you're going to end up with a new generation of sports card collectors who come into Marvel cards when they're older. Which is fine. It is what it is.
It's fine.
But I think it'd be nice to have kids that are coming up with Marvel cards,
I think also too, I think Topps Star Wars does it really well. And Topps was acquired by Fanatics recently. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen with Star Wars. But what they did was really intelligent in the sense that they would have retail boxes and hobby boxes.
Yes.
And the retail boxes would be in Targets, Walmarts, all that kind of good stuff here. And then hobby boxes would be in the card store, in the card shops. And the difference between the boxes is that you could get some hits in the hobby box, the retail box, which was pretty cool. But the hobby box guaranteed the sketch card or the autograph. So there was a nice little divide there because yes, you can go spend $100 on this hobby box and $20 on a retail box and maybe get a hit in a retail box.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was, I think that's a great idea. And, honestly, that's genius in my opinion.
I do as well. I tell you what I also like, and this is why I think Marvel's, the Alex Ross series was so successful. This is where I think you could have trading cards do this a lot more, is that it gave a different artist.
Yes.
It reframed events that in a new perspective through their own lens. And Marvel's was so successful because it showed you the history of the Marvel universe and the characters from the 60s and 70s and all those events that at that point had been so huge. It showed you them from a different angle, from a different perspective, and it happened that it was a new artist as well, so everything about it felt new and fresh and reverential, but also joy in its own right. You don't have to have know the Marvel universe to appreciate what that story was doing.
Absolutely.
And I think there's certainly room for that new interpretation of Marvel events and Marvel history, which is, I'm kind of hoping that this new sets thing that Upper Deck are doing, where they focus on a big event, every year or whatever it is, actually has an aspect of it which looks at elements of that you might not be aware of, or frames them from a different artistic perspective. I don't know.
I think it's great. I mean, honestly, the thing too to realize, to take this back a little bit into the past, is 1992 Marvel masterpieces are amazing and kind artist and friend Joe Jusko did, is that he, it's funny, Marvel comics weren't really looking at fantasy art, and they weren't looking at realistic body proportions, right? You weren't really having those moments. So when 92 Marvel masterpieces came out, people felt like they saw the characters in real life. I know I did. You know what I mean? And I felt like, I was like, whoa, that body proportion, that's crazy. I guess if a superhero did exist, this is what they would look like. And of course, that was even more the case in 1996 Marvel masterpiece with Julie and Boris. But there was a really unique moment where fantasy art, sci-fi art came to Marvel, and it was depicted on cards. And I think seeing cards, like you were saying, Ian, seeing those characters in different lenses, you know what I mean, by different artist perspectives or different genres of art, are really amazing. Like, I mean, that's kind of why I really enjoyed seeing the difference from Marvel Masterpieces 2016 to Marvel Masterpieces 2018. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the coolest part, is that we got to see the classic Joe Jusko comic book thing, which was just amazing. And then we got to see a comic book artist who was doing work with a slightly different lens on characters that had this really like darker sci-fi, they exist in another universes. This is kind of what their bodies would look like. Yeah. And it was in the mind of Simone Bianchi. Yeah. That was just awesome. And then of course, Palumbo gave us, not necessarily Magic the Gathering characters, but gave us this new version of superheroes from his own lens. I don't know. I think cards, the answer to Marvel cards for the future, at least one of them, is that they have to continue to give us access to new and interesting perspective on these characters, either through story or depiction of them or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I would maybe close this segment on the question, and we'll move on to another question by issuing the following statement for discussion in your own mind, perhaps. Marvel Masterpieces 92 was to Marvel trading cards as Marvels by Alex Ross was to Marvel Comics.
I agree. 100%.
I love it when we agree.
I love it.
I love it. I love it when we agree.
Love it. Love it.
So the other question that made me chuckle earlier on, Glenn Galton. Glenn's a lovely guy.
Oh, Glenn's awesome. Glenn
really
is
nice
like
guy.
Masterclass collector. He's scary. It's good stuff.
This is the age-old question. When are many cards too many cards?
Oh, Glenn, you dirty. Good job, Glenn. That's exactly right.
He followed it up, says, I suspect the answer is when you ask that question, but curious to hear from others.
I think it's the audience size, if I can be honest. Like, I think it's pretty small hobby when Ian and I could see a card go somewhere and we're like, oh, that was from here. It's a pretty small group of guys and women who collect Marvel cards and whoever collect Marvel cards when that kind of stuff happens. And I think the difference here is that I'm hoping, and this is my hope. My hope is that the audience does increase for Marvel cards, which I think we can reasonably say without a doubt that it is, that the audience has grown immensely. For how long, we don't know, which is, always the question. But I think the trick here is that the Marvel cards have to, the trick is to keep us interested without keeping us overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that is a magic number of sets.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think you're looking at like 2 top end sets, 3 lower end sets every year, or whatever the magic number is. And I'm not an analyst of the business, and I don't know. So I can talking out of so I don't know. But I do think there is a sweet spot. And I think right now we're not seeing that because of what happened with the effects of COVID and the delays of sets. And we're very nervous, as a lot of people are who were around in the 90s when Marvel Comics got overproduced, which this was a conversation I was just shown that was happening in the original art world because of that page that sold for $3.5 million of the first appearance.
Secret Wars.
The Spider-Man black suit.
Yes, that's right.
So, and that comic book page sold for a lot of money, and this was up to debate. Are we seeing a boom? Are we seeing a fall of the market, and all this stuff? And my opinion of this, and this is kind of going with your question, Glenn, I'm sorry if I'm deviating a little bit here, is that right now, it's not collectors collecting. A lot of people think that's what it is right now, but that's not the world we live in. It's not collectors collecting these things anymore. It's collectors, it's hedge fund people, it's investors, it's speculators, it's flippers, it's people who are making this into their business. It's people who want to be influencers who are trying to make this their world. There's people who are involved with grading companies and trying to get cards for grading things. There's people who are going to do other amazing things with cards. And all of these people are in this real rush into our ecosystem. And we're seeing that kind of competition and that kind of landscape that we've never experienced before. So I think when you think about how many cards are going to be produced and how much damage it will do if it's too much or too little, I don't think we'll have an answer to that until the whole like COVID limitations are kind of uplifted.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, when are many cards, too many cards? I mean, for me, if you, I've got good experience of this. When are many cards, too many cards? It's like, well, when I'm no longer getting the satisfaction over refining a particular collection, it means I'm trying to refine too many things. I'm not even refining it at that point. If I'm collecting too much stuff, I'm triaging it. And I'm actually, while we've been talking, so here's a question for you, Noreen. I'm about to part with more of my comics. Okay. Now I'm keeping my Spider-Mans. So I'm keeping my Amazing Spider-Man. Ending at 801 with Dan Slott's end of his run because I'm fed up with Marvel rewriting it. And also, is it Jonathan Hickman's run? It was just ghastly. So I stopped. And Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and some of the other, key series, things like that. But I think I might part with my Daredevils because I can't keep up with both. Do you see what I mean? There's an awful lot of Daredevil issues out there. Daredevil is well up into if you actually carry the numbering through, it's well up into the 600s now.
I just think there's going to be, I mean,
both.
You can't do both, man. Like, how can you?
And I love Daredevil.
I had a lot of Silver Surfer comic books. People don't really know this about me, but I had quite a bit, and I was reading all of the paperbacks that kind of sum it up to keep up with it when I decided to stop buying. And I've read everything multiple times, and I can't remember everything, but I read a lot of it and had a collection. And a big part of my life has always been card. Because when I was a kid, I could have the card and kind of squirrel it away and, protect it. And it felt like mine. And, there's a bunch of other stuff there, but I'll talk about that another time. But, so cards were personal. You know what I mean? They were like in my buried treasure of like my toy chest, you know what I mean? Type of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why they were always significant to me. Comics were a little tougher at the time. But for me, I mean, and Ian knows this, but I had to sell like all of my other interest in my collecting stuff. Like I'm about to sell the rest of my pops, and I have some pretty crazy things in there because Emily and I had like a fun run where we were buying pops and getting into that because it was really fun. But I'm going to sell them now, and I'm at only cards now, and it's only the Silver Surfer collection. I'm selling off any other Gambits I had lingering around because I'm not going to do Gambit anymore because that was a stupid thing to think I was doing. I was just bored at the time. And even though I love Gambit. And then, the Mandalorian stuff, I feel pretty happy with my collection with there. So that might be slowing down too.
But it's curated, and it's curated. It's refined or finite. I'm not sure which word is the right answer. Both of them.
That's good, actually. Yeah, both of them is good. But I think that's the trick, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, we're no longer. I think collectors are going to be required to no longer be collectors. I think we're going to be, like Ian had said so beautifully, curators. I think that's what we are now, and it's a pretty powerful idea to think that we as collectors can move from collecting to curating. And I think that's the trick.
I think the way to think about it is, those tiny little, those like Japanese bushes that you just snip at with a pair of nail things.
Bonsai.
You just get them. Yeah. But there are people who you can do classes in.
Yes.
All you're doing is just refining the shape
forming
of something that's very contained and very manageable. And I think where I got to in all of my collecting, which is why I overspent, was I wasn't setting any borders or boundaries. I was just it was just spreading out. Like, really, you see those photos, those terrible images of like when tsunamis come ashore and they just sweep everything away and they just go and go. It's like that. And you lose sight of the fact that you're supposed to be enjoying what you're getting, and you can't because it's just everywhere. So I'm kind of at that point. So I guess what I'm saying to you then, Glenn, to my personal perspective is when it's no longer feels like you're curating and finessing something. It's when you're just barely keeping up. That's when you've kind of got to think, okay, well, actually, do I want to focus?
If you feel like you're drowning while you're collecting, you're doing it. It's not worth what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've done that, and you know what? I'm having to. It's not that it stopped happening for me. I'm still having to stop myself.
Yes,
I'm actively still having to stop myself from going after stuff. And again, I don't want people to feel like we're talking about this is like the hardest thing to deal with ever, but more like there is an aspect to collecting, especially with cards, and just to put this out there, that happens to align itself with gambling. FOMO. Especially when you're doing FOMO, gambling, trying to hit a level and all this stuff. I had a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, tell me, whenever you think you have the best of something, there's two other people who have better stuff. Yeah.
And that's the rule of thumb. Whenever you think my collection can't be topped, there are items out there that you just don't even know about. Mm-hmm. So instead of trying to make it a competitive nature, curate your collection to your liking, right? To how it's going to fulfill that idea. And I think that's going to help with a lot of people who are, really excited to crack wax, to, open packs, to have FOMO. Instagram's the worst place for this. My advice is you take a break, look at your collection, feel good about it, put a Post-it on your computer, and then go to Instagram. Yeah. And then realize, okay, I'm doing this thing. That's cool that person's doing this thing. Yeah. But I'm going to stick to this.
Collect what makes you happy. Not what other people are saying.
Yeah. And that's hard to do. It takes time.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I think I'm going to part with those Daredevils as well. Because the thing is, I know that from that I'll have money to actually put towards my holiday in the summer, and I'll be able to acquire. I'll be able to put funds towards a couple of really high-end PC items coming to me.
That's the way to do it.
That I'm going to talk to you about on a future episode once I'm ready to talk about them, and once I've actually paid for them as well. Because I do think it's a little bit discourteous to actually be boasting about owning something before you've finished paying for it from someone who's helped you out acquire it. Anyway, I because I'd used a Nathan Fillion GIF, which wasn't even from Firefly, it was from Castle. Someone said, "Questions on Firefly?" And I'm like, no, if you
Maybe.
like, if you like. Brown coats unite and all that. Right. So there's a lot that are on the same kind of in the same lane. So I'm going to try and cluster them together a bit. So actually, we'll do a quick one from Keith Boyle. Why do I keep buying it? Feel like I never get ahead on my wish lists.
Oh, Keith. I love Keith. He's
Keith,
so nice.
I do really like Keith. He's got to come on at some point. He's been on a couple of Billy.
Billy and him have great discussions.
Yeah,
Billy does a great job over there.
Billy's coming back, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, I've not told you that, so we'll talk about that afterwards. Anyway,
yes,
Return of the Billy.
Return of the Billy.
So there's a question that kind of steers it towards where the other questions have come. So I'll start with that. With the influx of new collectors, this is from Jalen Warner, JLW. With the influx of new collectors and the rise in graded cards, how much crossover do you foresee with comic collectors that have been slabbing for years? And if that is the case, do you foresee more card collectors dipping into the comic collecting realm? I've got an answer for that. I've been thinking about this one. I've got an answer for this one, and it is CGC. I think once CGC fully turn on the taps with grading Marvel cards, you're going to see a lot more of that, I think.
Hell yeah. Look, CGC needs to grade cards. I've been a big believer of this for a long time now. I've reached out to CGC. I 100% believe in them completely. And I like their grading service. I think they're great. I love what they've done with Pokemon. They're awesome. But it makes no sense. And I have nothing against PSA or any of the other grading companies. I really don't. But I like the synergy between Marvel cards and comic books being graded under the same grading service. Yes. I just think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Matching labels,
Can you imagine? You can imagine the Instagram post now, can't you? You can imagine it. People with their CGC 9.8 and their CGC
Marvel Beginning signed card. Just killer.
Right next to each other. And you know what? Actually, I'm thinking about it now. I'm thinking, ooh.
I know.
Yeah. I think it could. I think at the moment, listen, I think there is a crossover, but I'm in a couple of big comic book groups in the UK, and I know very few people that are also in card groups from those comic book groups. So I don't know if it's like that in groups in America. I don't know if there's an awful lot of crossover, but I know there's a couple of big comic book groups that Tommy has invited me into, and not many of those guys are in card groups. Do you see what I mean? I think
from my experience, it's not so much the crossover of like comic book collectors and card collectors. My experience is the people who display their stuff, because what you've seen and I've seen is like, here's my statue, there's my comic book, here's my card.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
And like, that is the holy trinity for a Marvel card collector, in my opinion, right? To have the statue, the comic book, the card. Like, it just feels...
For me, it's the Lego figure, but carry on.
Yeah, well, the Lego figure would be great if they did them all. Yeah, some. Yeah. There's not like a surfer Lego. There's a minifig.
There's a Black Cat one.
Yeah, I know.
There's a Black Cat minifig, but it's in the Daily Bugle set. So I'm going to buy it separately.
You got to buy that huge thing. Yeah. Yeah, Surfer's not around yet.
In that Daily Bugle set, there's like 42 minifigs.
Is Doc Ock in that? I saw it. It's a cool looking set, man. Yeah. It's awesome. I have the Mando Lego, which I really like. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think you can put Lego. I love Legos, period. But I do think having that display there is what a lot of people tend to do. So I don't know if the crossover's there, but I know the display culture is there.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, obviously comic collectors have been slabbing for years. Actually, a lot of card collectors have as well, just maybe not so much in the Marvel side. I think it's definitely...
There are a few people. Our good friend, Graded Gamer, has been doing it.
Yeah, Stephen Bagley and Amanda. Yeah, both.
Bagley's been doing it too. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been happening the thing true, and the funny thing is too, like when people were started grading Marvel cards, and a lot of people were against it. I remember a lot of conversations Ian and I had on air where people were like, not really interested, that's stupid, I already have the card, blah, blah. And those conversations make sense from a certain perspective, 100%. But I think a lot of people were grading very successfly. And I think that was the other issue. And the other really good thing about CGC being a grader is that they could have someone there, who would really understand. Like within our group alone, we have all the experts to be doing like error cards, the history of cards, uncut cards. Like there's so many sketch cards. Like there's a way to encapsulate a sketch card and not put necessarily the grade on there, but authenticate it and make it interesting. You know what I mean? There are different things you can do if people want things slabbed. But honestly, the truth is slabbing is the future, unfortunately. That's just the necessary, especially with collectibles being what they are. I mean, gosh, Logan Paul just bought a $3.5 million Pokemon case and it ended up being fake.
Oh, did it? I think I've seen some headlines about that.
So, I mean, and that's a huge hit for the community because, a lot of people were duped on that case. And I think that's going to be a huge, it's really rough. Poor guy. I think that's a huge hit.
I'm not being funny. There's no poor guy about it. If you've got £3.5 million or dollars and you choose to spend it on that, then I don't care. There's nothing poor about you.
yeah. There's nothing poor about you there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a really crappy thing to happen. And more importantly, regardless of talking about these people, because I don't know them, the big important thing to take away from this would be there needs to be enough research. Like for me, my biggest question with that whole debacle, with not going into it, this is kind of relevant to the question, is that we as a community need to have enough research, pictures, and documentation of things to know what's real and not. Like, why is there not a bunch of pictures on what a Pokemon case looks like? You know what I mean? Like to the finer details, you know what I mean? Where that mistake wouldn't happen, like there needs to be like some record keeping or something happening. I know all of us do it on our own, and maybe we'll post some things up in the group so people can help each other out. But, we should definitely be protecting each other from fraudulent stuff.
Absolutely. So this ties into another question that was sent to us anonymously. And it has two parts. Well, obviously I know who sent it, but the person has requested to be anonymous. So the first part of it is, do you think the grading of cards is slowly becoming more prevalent in the group? I think it's becoming more prevalent in hobby full stop, actually. I certainly 2 years ago didn't own any graded cards, and now I own 6.
Wow.
And I've no interest, 7 actually, but I'm about to sell that one because it's not a black cat. I've no interest in submitting cards for grading. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something I would do. And also I live in the UK, so it's actually really difficult. But I'll more than happily buy them graded. And I particularly like the look of one particular company's branding because it doesn't detract from the card, which I think should always be the star. That's my own personal perspective on it. So
I like that.
But yeah, I think it's becoming more prevalent. I think it's becoming more prevalent for a couple of reasons. I think people are realizing that it's actually really nice to have it protected and displayable, especially if it's a PC item. And the second part of it is a lot of people have started doing it to increase the value of it, because for them that's important to how they choose to navigate the hobby. And this isn't me being judgmental, but I avoided using the term collect there because I'm not sure how much of a collector you are if you're acquiring the card to then slab it to then sell it. I don't know if that. I mean, are you still a collector? I mean, I guess you're collecting it to then grade it. But
I think some people, I think what a lot of people tend to do is they are. I think there's two sides to this. Yes, there are people who do that, and it's their business, and it's a thriving business. It's a good idea. It's a very good idea. You make good money off of that. But I think other people are kind of doing what we're doing in a way where we are curating a collection, but they go through multiple steps. So they will be like, you know what? I'm going to collect all this because I really like it. And then they see the value increase and they're like, well, how about I keep these pieces here for me? That's PC. The rest I'll invest in Graydon and then flip those so I can gain access to more PCs. I can see people doing that as well. And I think that is a big movement for a lot of people and how they're thinking about it. I do think there are the person who does this, who basically says, well, everything will have a price on it, but the price I'll set on some of these is so ridiculous. And we've seen eBay users do that, where they put something on the price of something and they're like, this is $300,000. If you can afford it, fine, I'll be okay with letting it go. But otherwise, it's for me to keep. I don't know why they would post it on eBay to make that claim, which seems very like big truck, small type of thing. But, you know, that's up to them. But like, but I do think there are ways to go about it. Because a big thing that one person had this huge, very angry thing that was said to me with a lot of nasty, derogatory stuff. You know, one of the things they said is that they claimed me to be a flipper. They claimed me to badmouth flippers, but be a flipper myself. And, you know, like we've joked about it on the site together about like me getting something and then deciding to let it go type of thing and stuff like that. But, you know, the truth is, A, it's nobody's business. But B, for clarification, because I don't want to badmouth anybody, flipping is part of the hobby. You know what I mean? Getting a card, realizing you're not wanting it, and then selling it for the price you paid for, no one does that. And if they do, you are a far better person than I am. But if I have collected something, had it for a couple of years, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not really into it anymore, or had it for any X amount of time, and I'm just like, yeah, this is not really what I want. I know I can put the money back over here into the cards and do it this way. Then I'm going to sell the card for the higher price. I just am. And, you know, I just don't want there to be any confusion on that, because, you know, I don't want people to misconstrue, you know, what I've said into something else or try to twist my words around. What I'm saying is there are a lot of aspects to card collecting, and a lot of people do it differently. You know what I mean? And if people don't like what one person is doing, then you just simply don't buy from that person or engage with them. You know what I mean? That's the end of it. I don't know. Just to clear that up.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with flipping is I've never, it's never been something that. And here's the thing: there's two schools of thought with flipping. There's the school of thought where it's like if you can have the hobby pay for the hobby, then, you know, respect to you. I've never really been able to do that, so I don't fully understand it. For me, it's a state of nirvana. But I know a lot of people get to that point and are able to do it, which is absolutely fine. I know some people literally do buy just to break and sell. So resellers, and so there's a distinction I make, and that's resellers. So resellers are the people who tend to buy a load of product, break it, and then sell it once broken down. I don't think of them as flippers because they're actually taking the risk. They're actually buying the product and breaking
That's right.
it. You know, they might have a really rough run of cases, or the product might not have the distribution that you maybe had thought it would, and it might, you know, be a challenge for you to recoup. My issue, which has probably clouded my judgment on it on previous comments I've made, is when we have a group like a community like MMC is a prime example, where people put stuff on sale in there because they recognize it's a community and they're not looking to necessarily put something on at really high prices. When you have someone else come in and buy at those prices and then take it to eBay and sell it for double or three times the amount, which doesn't happen often, but it has happened. And when that's happened, that really winds me up, because they're taking advantage of that.
No. And you're absolutely right. No, but see, that's the difference, right? They're not a flipper. That person's an asshole.
Fair enough.
And that's the difference. And we've had that in the group. We've had someone who actually, you know, was hassling artists for original art piece and lowballing them just to put it on eBay for 10x the money the day, even sometimes before
the artist had actually mailed it to them.
Actually sent the piece. So yes,
and an artist actually left the sketch card hobby.
Because of that.
They were so upset over it. An artist who people miss and still
an amazing artist.
wonder why that artist isn't back in the game.
An amazing artist.
But what I do, just to not that I need to clarify, but when I sell something, I just look at the market for that card as it is now, and I say, right, what's it going for? And I just price it fairly to what it's paying for. Because if I price it too high, no one's going to buy it. If I price it too low, I've done myself a disservice. So as an example, when I sold my Fleer Ultra X-Men comic cuts from 2018 about 6 months ago, I had no idea the market had gone up so much on those. So I priced it high, and I priced it to what I saw them selling for, and they were all gone within 24 hours, and it financially massively helped me out. But the thing is, once I saw what they were going for, I knew I'd never be able to complete the set. So it actually made it an easy decision to sell them, which is exactly what I did with the double impacts from Masterpieces 96. I'm not saying that Julian Boris's worth isn't worth that. Just for me, I would never pay £300 to £400 for some of the double impact cards and what they were going for. So the two I had, I thought, well, I'm just going to sell those.
Mm-hmm. And be done.
That was just,
and I think
the way I chose to sell that one. But can I go on to the second question? Because again, I don't want to get into anything. He said, she said, they did this, they did that. I don't want to be throwing rocks at other people who are putting out content and choosing to talk about different things. I don't think that's the honourable way to do things. I don't think it's a respectful way to do things.
No, there's no reason to do that. No,
ultimately,
never.
No point in closing doors.
No. Well,
but your conduct, how you conduct yourself and how you speak to others is what closes doors for you.
Oh,
and I'm saying that now before I ask this next question, because this question came in before a recent incident that happened. Okay. But I'm going to ask it anyway. But it will what we say as a response to this question will be viewed through the prism of people who know what took place. Okay. We can't change that. But curious to your opinion of those who say that SGC is as good or is better than PSA or BGS. And this was asked by someone who had no skin in the game whatsoever before whatever kicked off.
My opinion on this is easy. Grading companies, I am not going to say anything bad about any grading company. I think even for the ones that are just starting out, those people are trying to do something, and they're putting where their money, their money where their mouth is, and they're trying really hard. SGC has been around for a long time, people, a long time. BGS, PSA, those tend to be the three that people know of, and there are other companies as well. The best thing to do when deciding for a grading company is easy. Go to eBay, look at recent sales, because if you're slabbing to invest and to sell, then you need to see what different companies sell for at different prices. Or if it's just a slab to hold your collection in there, then it does not matter what company you go with.
Just go with what visually appeals.
Whatever visually appeals. And I think there's a second half of that too, is whoever you feel safe with. Call these companies, speak to a rep, talk to other people who have graded with these companies, you know what I mean? And have put a lot of cards in their hands. And, listen to the community, right? Ask for different experiences. This is a costly endeavor to get cards graded. And you should really spend, in my opinion, more than 1 month or 3 months making that decision. And I'm dead serious about that. Like, I know that sounds like a long time to wait to grade something, but if it is for your personal collection, you're sending these people your pieces. That's a big deal, right? These pieces that you value, that you look at on cost. I look at my surfer stuff all the time. You know what I mean? That's how that's my hobby. That's what I enjoy. So if I'm going to send it out of my home to someone, I want to make sure that it's going to be taken care of and I'm going to be treated well.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies do treat people well. PSA, BGS, SGC, CGC. There's a lot. These companies have treated people really well and do really care about cards. You know what I mean? So you need to do your research. It's one of those questions that no one can answer for you. It's one of those things you have to research until you find that moment where you feel really comfortable.
Yeah. If that is, you're someone who wants to actually submit cards for grading. I have
don't
no
have
plans
to
ever do
submit
it.
cards.
Yeah,
You
just
don't
buy 'em-
have to do
just
it.
buy them graded, and just buy what you feel comfortable.
That's
what,
it.
what you feel comfortable with. I mean, I'm not. Listen, it's nice if a graded card has a 10 or a 9. It's nice. It's fine.
It's nice. It's okay.
I genuinely, and my answer to this question is like, I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
It genuinely doesn't care. And I always go back to, and I said this to my wife earlier on about something else. There's a box office manager in the 90s in London who is very famous for having said to a customer, "I don't know why you're shouting at me. It's a ticket. It's not a kidney."
I remember
It's
that.
it's the same. It's honestly, and that's my kind of grounding prism for a lot of things these days. I have to just remind myself about bless her Jill saying that. I said I've got no interest in spending 10, 15 minutes looking at a card and choosing whether to grade it or not. It's just I've got. I'm not dissing those who do. I just haven't got time in my day to do it. So I'd rather buy from someone who grades. And now, I have someone who I prefer to buy through, but I'll buy through eBay as well, or if someone sells stuff. But you know what? I recently saw something that was graded. I think it was a 7 or 6 or something. And it was PSA, but it was a Black Cat card I wanted. I already own the card. I'm only getting it because it looks nice in the holder, and it would be a nice to have a double of it that I could display. So I just bought it, and I just my preference of grading company is just the ones that I like the look of, and I'll get them to match. Once I've got the first couple, I'll get the rest to match.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to, and the truth is too, is like, understand that, and this is going to sound strange, but please, hopefully I can say this clearly enough. Graded cards, man, when someone decided to grade a card or grade any collectible, they really had the $1 million idea. Because the one thing that gets into a collector's head when they have something is they want to be able to have the best version of that thing. And grading cards really is that earworm that kind of forces you to be like, oh, because I get it from that perspective, right? You have cards, you look at them, you're like, oh man, my card has that little white ding on the corner. Maybe I should pay $300 for a Gem Mint 10.
It's slightly imperfect. It's
slightly imperfect.
I deserve.
And, it's really weird. And I do see that perspective, and I have had that perspective. So I understand people who get that inside their head, but do trust me on this. And, I think Ian would agree. That's the kind of stuff you just try to ignore, because it's a very dangerous trap. You're putting yourself into a hole that you're never going to climb out of, because there's nothing perfect about any of these cards. And I'm happy to be the first one to say, any grading company, anything that gives it a Gem Mint Black Label 10, blah, 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 all this stuff, there's still imperfections on the card. There's still someone's opinion at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's not divine and whatever it may be. It's still an opinion from
divine
somebody
proclamation,
else.
I think is what.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not the tablets coming down from Mike Simon.
That's it. Yeah. Right. So, and a lot of people who do worry about the grades are people who are spending an exorbitant amount of money. Mm-hmm. And the reason the grade is there is as a guarantee at the end of the day. And that's the truth, right? At the end of the day, the grades are really for people who are spending an exorbitant amount of money, X amount of dollars, to ensure that they're having something authentic, graded by a trusted company. That's it. So all this grading conversation, you're not missing out by not having your cards graded. It just depends at the end of the day. Take a couple of months to decide what you want to do. Because it's costly to get cards graded at whatever price point.
And for those that do enjoy it, because some people, it is the way they collect. Cool in the gang. That's what you want to do. That's fine. There are a whole host of people who enjoy it and do the whole grade reveals things when they get them back. And
it's awesome. And I love those videos. I watch those videos all the time.
Yeah.
Brian from Marvel Cards Up. I watch those videos constantly when he does the CGC reveals. Yeah. They're awesome.
And I love the fact that he does it. I personally don't watch them. It's not any diss.
No, I mean, no.
Just because personally, I'm not that fussed. For me, it's like not something that kind of gets my
Right.
motor running is seeing,
Yeah.
will it be a 9? Will it be an 8.5? Will it be? It's like, will it be a card? Yes, is the answer. Marvelous. But if anyone's saying, well, one thing it's the whole Coke and Pepsi thing.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Drink what you enjoy. I actually took someone to task on group earlier on. Someone posted something they were really pleased with, and they'd had a and this is, I don't want to think this is disingenuous off the intro to this episode where I was doing a graded company name generator. That was just me having a bit of fun, and it was something perhaps slightly inappropriately I just fancied doing as a fun warm up to the episode. But someone on group showed something off and they'd had something graded, and someone else came in and said, oh, they're crooks, that grading company, this, you wasted your money, all this sort of stuff. And they were going at it quite hard. And I said, slow down, mate. If you've got an opinion about this particular grading company, make your own post. But don't come in here on someone else's chips that's something they're pleased with and they're coming in to show off. Don't take away that guy's feel good.
Why are you going to be that voice? Like, why are you going to be that negativity?
So I don't want anyone to perceive this conversation or anything as us taking away someone else's enjoy moment in the hobby. It's your O-face moment. I have it, enjoy it, love it, and go for it. We all do it in our own different ways, and we all collect in our own different ways. So yeah, vive la différence, I think. But I will say, because someone used the expression cancel culture this week, and this is the only final thing I'm going to say on this, on record on here, is that the only thing that gets you cancelled in this hobby is the way that you behave. It's not what you collect. It's not what your opinion is. It's the way you voice that opinion, and it's the way you behave to others who have a different opinion.
Yep.
And that is, so you got to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah,
if you feel on the outs. But more power to you, much love to you in your own personal life, success and love and all good things to you, no ill feelings whatsoever, but behave poorly. And moving on, because we've been going for a little while now. We've got an absolute belter of a question that could be its own episode. We've already got another one that will be its own episode. So I'm going to do some very, hopefully, quick fire ones. And then we will bid a path to the hills, my friend. If that's all right with you.
The hills are nice.
With the sound.
With the sound of music. Tony Perno is going to round us off with another question in a minute. I'll come to that. But Corey Wahlberg asks, how do you think the community might change as Marvel cards start to have their turn in the trading card spotlight? I believe there is an incoming wave of collectors, investors, etc. You think? Heading directly for all things Marvel. Each community has its own hallmarks, but I think the Marvel one is the most unique. I also think that this might get particularly interesting when Marvel does blow up. I think it's happening. I think we're in it.
I think it's going to get
crazier. I think there's
crazier. Yeah.
I think there's some big events coming that I'm pretty sure are happening very soon, hopefully, that are going to make things even crazier. Yeah, I think it's happening. I think we're in it.
Yeah. And I think, how do you think the community might change? It's growing. That's for sure. I can only speak from my experience. So it's growing. I'm seeing much more Marvel content everywhere, not just on Instagram. I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing more people coming into the group. Some people kind of stumble into the group, trip over the door and fall flat on their face. Others have had a slightly more graceful landing. One thing I've really enjoyed, we've started to say to people coming into MCCW, can you make your first person post an introduction post?
That's saying, been awesome.
Anyone got any PMGs for sale? Buying this, buying that, they're kind of sports people come in and they just want to buy some stuff. There are those people, but the people that have done the introduction posts, they're fabulous stories.
They're awesome stories,
and I may, with their blessings, actually recount some of those on a future episode.
That's fun.
and actually get into them a little bit, because I think there's some brilliant stories, and there's some folk that have come in, and straight away you're like, you're no longer a stranger. So when we said about we did that episode before Christmas where we said, your advice, Norrin, was introduce yourself. So we said to people, introduce yourself, and it's the people who have. It's been great.
It's awesome. I mean, I don't know, and I think you and I have had that advice for people for a long time now. I think what's important is that it's weird, right? You can go to a car dealership, say what you want, have that back and forth, buy the car, no hard feelings, and you're
car. I thought you said card.
Oh, cars.
Right, okay. Automobiles,
vehicles, automobiles. So I should have said automobiles because it's just too close. You can have that experience and it's done. No nothing, no anger, no nada. But what ends up happening with collectibles is that people have been here far longer than me, and they know things that I just found out about a subset of cards that I had no idea existed from the 90s.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, I'll tell you about it after. It's insane. It was an insane thing. Like I had no idea these even existed, and worse off, I had no idea that there were so many people chasing them and considering them holy grails for the set. Just no clue. Clue that was happening. And I was kind of like, man, I thought I had it pretty locked down on a lot of the pieces. And I thought I understood enough, and I still don't. And I've been here for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
So coming into a hobby, and it looks like a Facebook group, and Facebook is barf, but like you really are coming into a world. You really are coming and hanging around people who really feel passionate about this stuff. And a lot of these people too, this is the thing to keep in mind of, they don't need the money. You know what I mean? They don't really care, and some people are really like that. They're like, yeah, you can offer me $1 million. I still wouldn't sell you this piece, but that's collectors, so introducing yourself, having that community aspect, and you'll eventually get what you want, or you just wait on eBay like everybody else. But there's proper ways to have conversations and to still respect each other. And I think when you come to the group asking for the biggest cards possible and be like, I'll pay for whatever, how much ever. And, you're going to get blowback from that, because that's really not saying it's rough. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm glad it's working out. It's so awesome to meet all these people and to hear their stories.
It is.
It's just great.
And to touch on the first part, Corey, I mean, how do you think the community might change as Marvel cards start to have their turn in the trading card spotlight? I can speak for it now. I think the interesting thing at the moment is everyone's quite tight at the moment for various reasons. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but everyone's very quick to have a go at someone else. There's a lot of people that are bearing grudges against others, and any opportunity to have a snipe at that other person, they will do on a comment, even though it's nothing to do with the post that's being discussed. And it's a little bit like, grow up. Seriously, just.
It's childish.
It is childish.
Really
it is silly, and that that is the kind of thing that gets people on the outs with groups and communities.
You're just putting your own foot in your mouth. Like what I do, and this is just an option, and this is what I do. I have a group threads, group messages with like 3 or 4 other
friends.
people. Chat friends, which is a better way of saying it. And you know what? I look at the post, someone posts something, and I'm like, I'm like, wait a second. I go to my chat post and then I tell my friends, my confidence, like, can you believe this? And that changes so much of my perspective, because sometimes friends are just like, well, I mean, have you thought about it this way? And it's like, oh, or it's just like, yeah, screw that person. And I no longer care afterwards, and it just blows over, and I think, and Facebook, the news came out about how it deals with its algorithm and how it will try to show you things to upset you more often, because that requires more of a knee-jerk reaction.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That explains
so Yeah, so
We had a
they'll
full
show
moon day on
you.
Tuesday in the group. That explains that.
Well, they'll show you things that anger you, and those things will be more prevalent. So
I'm with
they'll
you.
look at certain word choices or reactions and all this other
Gotcha.
stuff to get you, because engagement is done easier. Engagement is guaranteed almost when it's something you disagree with. As dark as that is, and all the social media stuff is pretty dark. So I think remembering that and understanding that, give yourself that distance every chance you can get, and have your close friends on you, have a tight community, because those are the ones, you can complain about things to and all this other stuff. And two, this hobby is really small. And, this hobby is pretty small. And, when you start putting yourself into modes where you're like, well, that's it, I'm not going to deal with this person anymore. Or that's enough of this, or this person, you find yourself getting lonelier and lonelier on that island, and things get harder and harder to achieve and to experience. The card hobby doesn't become fun anymore for you very quickly.
Yeah, no, I completely hear what you're saying. The thing is with me, this is my choice. Okay, I very rarely block anyone.
Oh, I go crazy.
I know, yeah. But I very rarely do, because I'm like, you know what? I need to be able to, because obviously the group aspect of it, I kind of need to be able to see what's going on with it. But also B, it's just like, there's even people who vitriolically detest what we do and what we stand for in the hobby. You and I, and even those people, I haven't blocked, and there's no point. I don't talk to them, but it's why I use the hashtag One Hobby, because there's no point in being like that.
That's true. I agree.
Now there is a wonderful question from David Joaquin de la Rosa. Fabulous name, David. Fabulous name.
I think I know David.
It's we've touched on a lot of what he said, but he sent us almost an essay, and I think it's great. Now, we've touched on a lot of what you've asked here, David, but I want to give your post, your question, and your thoughts proper focus. Even though we've touched on them, we haven't kind of addressed exactly what you've asked and what you've submitted. And it's a long thing that you've submitted. So, David, if it's all right with you, we're going to park yours, and we'll do one or two things. We'll either touch on it on an episode we'll do in a week or two, or come on and we'll have the conversation together.
That's a great idea.
If he's up for it. Now, David, it might not be your cup of tea to do so, but if you're up for it, let's have a chat. Let's get to know you a bit, because I'm all up for that. David, apologies for leapfrogging you on that, but we're not rejecting. We're just putting a pin in it. Oh, my lips are dry. And final question from Tony Perner: where do you feel the hobby is heading this year? To hell on a handbasket, baby. No, I'm joking. He has asked another question about, do you want to see something new as chase cards, or are you fine with what is being currently produced? It's like, well, I like inventiveness. I like them trying new things, so that's good. But where do you feel the hobby is heading this year? Growing pains. I'm going to go back to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, is it where the hobby is heading this year, or where the hobby is heading in general?
This year was a specific phrasing.
That's a good idea.
2022.
So I think we're going to see certain points and events that take place over this year. I think we're going to see a sale of a card at a crazy price, something that we never thought before would happen. I think we'll see that soon.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think we're going to see certain collections and certain big collections changing hands. And I think we've already seen a lot of that happening. Being broken up. So I think you are going to see cards coming up on eBay that you didn't think have come up yet, or were going to come up. And we're going to see cards that are going to be, in quotations, obtainable. And I think that's going to happen. A major thing of that's going to happen. I think we're also going to see more than the one or two celebrities we already have collecting Marvel cards start showing themselves. I think that's happening too. We have Steve Aoki, who just showed a blue Spider-Man PMG on his feed.
Wow. Okay.
So he's collecting, which is pretty fun. And, we had that other celebrity who opened up a 90s pack and got a hologram Wolverine. Ben, I just blanked on his name. The guy from Parks and Rec. What? You've never seen Parks and Rec?
Oh, I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
Oh,
There's
this
lots
guy's
of shows
great.
we haven't seen.
This guy's great.
So is that one of the guys off that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I put him on my feed. It's really awesome that he's doing it. He is just like
a picture of that.
He's great, man. He's really funny and a really good actor on top of that. But he opened up a pack and he bought himself a 90s box and he's been opening a pack every day.
Oh, cool.
And he finally hit the Wolverine hologram that he had as a kid. Nice. So he was showing it. It's actually a really sweet story. But I think we're going to see more of that happening for sure. And I think the other big points that are going to happen are going to be like, I'm ready. I'm excited to see characters we haven't seen before possibly come back.
Oh, absolutely.
We just had an awesome thing from Marvel Legends for the GameStop.
Oh, GameStop exclusive. Wave 4, yes.
Wave 4, which has characters in there that haven't been around for a while. So I'm personally really excited, and I think a lot of other people will be too for characters they collect. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see new. I think we're going to see a lot of things changing in the industry, especially with Fanatics acquiring Topps. And I'm hoping that by the end of this year, we'll see some cards in hand that will be released, and we'll be pleasantly surprised by what they are and the excitement of opening packs. And I see that happening more and more. I see sketch cards becoming more rare. I see a lot of things occurring that are going to be really fun.
I see dead people walking around like regular people.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Or skies of blue, right? I see those.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
No worries.
I see. What do I see? I'm not sure what I see actually, because weirdly I look at it in terms of what I see myself doing with my collection. And I see myself refining it even more. I've made some decisions today to part with stuff that I'd like to keep, but I don't think I can necessarily carry on spending time investing in them if I'm going to complete anything. So, I'm choosing to part with stuff and slim down even further. I am, as of today, I've been trying to lose weight recently, and I'm down to 95 kg, which is which I'm pleased with. So, I've no idea what that is in pounds, but 95 kg. I hit today, which I'm pleased with.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I need to, I just need to carry on staying focused. And I think I would say, for a lot of people, I think that's going to be the factor this year, because there are a lot of people, we've talked about this and people have mentioned it in their questions. There are people with big amounts of money to spend, but there's equally loads of people who don't have that kind of income, who can't spend that kind of money on cards. And it's what do you do? It's getting to the point where it's no longer affordable for some of the people who could dive in relatively big time into a new deck release. Now can't do it because of the price of boxes. So they are having to make some tough decisions as to whether they're out. And a lot of them actually said, right, I'm out. Not bought anything new.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge price hike from like what we were used to what it is now. And
so a lot of people have walked away. So I think to a certain extent there will always be that churn in the market. But I think there are equal amounts of new people coming in, not just the people who are big spenders. And hopefully they'll stick around. I tell you what's been reassuring for me this week is seeing the enthusiasm at and I'm going to say relatively, and it is in terms of UD's output of late, affordable Marvel annual set. People are just
That's
really
pretty
digging it.
exciting.
And it's just nice to have that page turn since Metal Universe X-Men.
Yes.
It's
agreed.
nice to have that page turn. It's nice to see a different card set pop up, and to have people getting into it. And, already people are starting to post some pretty decent hits that they're excited about.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think
that's what
great.
it's about.
And they look fun, man. They look really cool. So I'm really, I'm excited.
Hopefully, for everyone, the year ahead involves a hell of a lot of, what we sign off with, which would be really cool. I'm not quite ready for it yet, so don't jump.
I was just about to do it. I was like, is this it? Is this my moment?
No, I was setting you up, and then I realized that I'll circle back to that, because
I'm just saying,
I wanted to say to the people, we haven't got to everyone's questions. So to John Wheeler, apologies, we haven't got to yours. Andy Kerr, apologies, we didn't quite get to yours.
Andy.
Yours is a really good one. Darren Cochran just said, I'm so far behind on the podcast. Love what you guys do. So informative. Great work, guys. So thank you. Not so much as a question as a statement. Is
nice
there
statement, though.
Anyone else we missed? I think that was pretty much everyone, apart from the aforementioned David Joaquin de la Rosa. And we will give your thoughts the room that they deserved. But yeah, he said some really, really cool stuff. I'm listen. Thank you to everyone who submitted some stuff. I love doing these episodes because it gets us talking about stuff that we might normally cover in the course of business. I love the people that even might not love us at the moment. That's absolutely fine. Do what you do, collect what you collect. It's absolutely fine. If you don't need me to say, that's absolutely fine. Of course, it's absolutely fine. It's a ridiculous thing to say. Please do rate, review, and subscribe to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And on our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter. Find us at the MCC Pod. Send us an email, send us a voicemail, and as ever, my friend,
enjoy collecting.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.